Hello, good afternoon, good evening, everybody joining. We're so excited to have you here for the CACHET Virtual College Fair. My name is James. I'm with StriveScan. I'll be kind of helping facilitate this information session with the Olin College of Engineering. We're very excited to hear from them. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. First of all, you can ask questions throughout this presentation by using the Q&A function. So please feel free to type your questions there. We cannot see or hear you during this. So within this Zoom webinar, your best way to communicate with us is through the Q&A function. There are additional sessions happening over the next few hours, and so you can sign up for those, and we encourage you to do so just so you can get as much information today as possible. And then for this session, as well as all sessions happening, there will be recordings made available within about a week or so at strivescan.com/cachet. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Victoria Moore with Olin College of Engineering, and she's going to take us over from here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Moore. I am one of the admission counselors at Olin College of Engineering. In case you're curious, my territory is pretty extensive. I read half of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and then I also do the majority of the Midwest to the Northwest and some of the Southwest too. Our reading's kind of funny. So I'm actually gonna share my screen and show you all a PowerPoint that I have that covers, a lot about who we are, our curriculum, our outcomes, things like that. All right. And why is this not letting me do this?
So it was starting and we can see kind of a gray screen right now, but.
That's it?
Yeah,
I'm frozen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay,
we can see you and you're moving. We just can't see your screen at the moment.
Yeah, hold on. My computer's freezing.
Okay.
Is what's happening here. Oh no.
No problem at all.
This is probably what I get for having a million tabs open and then not closing it before I have to do something.
No problem at all. Students, just a reminder, as we're kind of getting the presentation put together, you can use the Q&A function. So even if you have questions you want to ask just right off the bat, you're more than welcome to do so. And there should be time at the end of the session for Victoria to help answer those for you about Olin College. So.
Okay, this is still not. Oh no, I don't know what to do because this is still not working. But you can hear and see me, yes?
Yes, we can.
Oh my gosh, my computer just turned black. Oh, I am so sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
Because now I can't even see.
Okay, so. All right. It just took you out of the screen share, so maybe you can try it again now, perhaps? Yeah,
this should hopefully work. Wonderful. Okay, this looks better. You can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yay, everything's working. Thank you. Thanks everyone for sticking by with that. Once again, like I mentioned, I have a million tabs open and this is definitely my fault. So once again, if you are joining a little later and you hear my introduction, my name is Victoria Moore. I am one of the admission counselors at Olin College of Engineering. I'm so excited to be talking to you all today. And like James mentioned, if you have questions throughout, I'll leave time. So put those into the Q&A and I will get to that once the presentation is done. So a little bit about who we are. So we are located in Needham, Massachusetts, which is about 10 to 15 minutes outside of Boston. It's actually kind of the perfect place to be just because we are, close enough to the city, but far enough away where you still get that small campus vibe. You can see the picture of our campus right there. So you kind of still get that like green and trees campus feel to it, but it's really accessible for you to go into the city if that's something that interests you. And it's great because it means we're close to so many other colleges because Boston is known for being a college town. And, the T runs there, it's pretty easy to get on. Our students can also have cars on campus for all 4 years. You don't need to pay anything for that. So there really is a lot of accessibility there. One of kind of the most unique things about Olin, I'll go into a little bit more depth about it later, is that we are very, very small. So we are 330 undergraduate students, and that is in total. So that is not per grade, but actually, the entire student body. So there's about, 80 to 86 students per graduating class at any time. Even though we are quite small, we still, pride ourselves of having a diverse student body. So we have 38 states represented, 13 countries, and our students come from a variety of racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds. One of the other things we're really committed to is gender diversity on campus. So since our founding, which was actually in 1997, we're a very young college, um, each year, really from the start, we have had a student body that is 50% female identifying students. That is not always the case in engineering, as you might know. So that is another thing that I think makes us pretty unique, is that we have a very strong commitment to making sure that we have that balance on campus. Lastly, we are a very mission-driven institution. So our mission is that we want you to get that excellent technical background that you need as an engineer, but we want to take it a step further and have you apply that, technical background in a way where you are going to have a positive impact, where you are going to, have this greater social impact and really use engineering for the good of the world. That you can make, using engineering, you can really make people's lives better. That as an engineer, you have the power not just to make the newest technology, but to make technology that actually improves people's lives in very specific ways. So that's something that's really embedded within our curriculum, within the classes you take, within the research that professors do. That's really something that our student body and our faculty and our staff internalize. That mission is really, a fundamental part of who we are and what you will be learning while you are at Olin. So to get a little bit even more specific about the benefit of, our location and that connection to other colleges, is that we are part of a formal collaboration with Babson College, which is one of the best business and entrepreneurship schools in the country, and Wellesley College, which is a very rigorous women's liberal arts school. So our collaboration actually allows our students and the students respectively at Babson and Wellesley to cross-register in courses at any of the institutions. It's a super easy process, and it's something that our students really take advantage of. It's very common for our students to take at least one class at either Babson or Wellesley per semester. They really enjoy, getting off campus, getting to kind of diversify your curriculum, a little bit more than just the engineering classes offered. In addition to not only just being able to take classes, you can actually join clubs and extracurriculars at either of these institutions, which is really fun for our students. We have students who are on the water polo team in Wellesley because we don't have a water polo team on campus. So it's something our students take advantage of, and it really takes our small size of 330 undergraduates and makes you a part of this larger consortium. So if you're someone who's maybe a little hesitant on the size, our students, are part of this larger unit. So I already mentioned our, engineering for the good of the world mission. We're really structured, I think, in a couple ways that help us accomplish this mission and kind of make us who we are. One of those things is that we are small and undergraduate only. Like I already mentioned, we are 330 students. That could be either, the size of the school you already attend, or, chances are we're a lot smaller than the high school you attend. But that really comes with a lot of benefits. We are intentionally and purposefully that small. It's not that we can't get more students. It is that we want to, through that small size, foster a learning culture where your peers really well. And not only that, but your professors really well too. And you're going to know them on a first name basis. And you're going to have that kind of comfortable back and forth that really allows you to get, personalized help, personalized assistance, So it's really, our students benefit from kind of that close relationship, particularly with faculty. Another benefit is, like I mentioned, we are undergraduate only. So that means on campus, we have no master's or PhD students. So you benefit from that because if you're someone who is interested in doing research as an undergraduate, you can do high level, impactful research throughout your 4 years that you are at Olin because you're not competing for resources or time or for these positions in a lab with master's or PhD students. If you are at a larger institution, chances are, a lot of that work is going to go to the PhD and master's students because they've been doing this longer, because this is what they're there for. Whereas our faculty are purposely at Olin because they want to be having these, working relationships with undergraduate students. It's especially common for our students to do research on campus between their first and second year. So it's not even something that you have to wait until you're like a junior or senior to get involved with research, but it's something that you can do as early as your first year. And even if a professor isn't doing research specific about what you want to do, students sometimes go to professors and they're like, I think this is in your wheelhouse. I'm interested in it. We can do this together. So it's really actually quite student driven as well, which I think is very unique to Olin. And our small size helps with that because you can do that. So really at the heart and soul of who we are is that we have a curriculum that's heavily rooted in teamwork, project-based learning, and practical skills. So basically everything you do is going to be a project and it's going to be with a team. The emphasis on teaming is that, lots of research has shown that when you work on diverse teams, particularly in STEM related fields, the outcome in the learning process is going to be a lot better. So when I say project-based learning and teaming, sometimes people get that idea of what is sometimes project-based learning in high school or doing projects in high school, which is, a supplementary project tacked on at the end of a unit or curriculum to kind of like summarize the things you've already been tested on. However, that is not what Olin is about. Projects and project-based learning is really front and center within the curriculum. Our students are almost never in lecture halls. You very rarely take tests. That's not how we do it. Part of that is because we really believe in learning by doing, that instead of sitting in a lecture hall and kind of having things told to you and having questions posed to you that you answer, we really want students to, discover information on their own terms and through like their own motivation through these open-ended projects. We really think that you are going to learn better when you're doing it for yourself, when you're doing it with your peers. This also really helps our students become, more adaptable, critical thinkers in the sense that you're not just answering questions that are posed to you on a test, but you're figuring out, like, when you're doing a project, what questions should even be asked, which is a really valuable skill once you get into the workforce. Also, my light is going on and off in my room that I'm working in. So I'm sorry if you're noticing that. I don't know what's wrong with it. So I've been noticing that. I'm sorry if it's distracting. I keep trying to fix it and my light's broken. There we go. Yeah. So like I was saying, that project-based learning, really, really critical to who we are, to the point where when you graduate from Olin, you are going to have a portfolio of 20 to 30 projects. So if you kind of divide that between, the 4 years and the classes that you're taking, that really is at the root of what you are doing. And most of that is going to be team-based. So you have a portfolio of very applied work that kind of demonstrates, multiple skill sets, which makes you a competitive applicant moving forward if you're going into industry. So we also have a curriculum that's complemented by a lot of different fields. So, by design, arts, humanities, social sciences, and entrepreneurship. Talk a little bit more about this later when I get into the specificities of the curriculum. But your classes are going to combine STEM and the social sciences. So it really isn't these things that are separate, but we will have classes that really integrate both things, because we think in order to be an engineer that makes things for people, it helps to have some understanding of history, of sociology. Having that background is going to help you better make things for people. So that's kind of our reasoning behind having like a heavily multidisciplinary curriculum. And once again, that collaboration with Babson and Wellesley like really helps to allow our students to pursue a curriculum that's very multidisciplinary, just because you have access to so many different types of classes, which is very nice. So we have kind of, to get a little bit more into the nitty gritty of what our curriculum is. So we have 3 majors at Olin, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, which I'll get to in a second. So we have mechanical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, and then engineering with a concentration. I am going to stop and pause and say that all of our majors are ABET accredited. That just stands for the Accreditation Board of Engineering and Technology. So what that really is saying is, even though our curriculum looks so different in a lot of ways than maybe a more traditional engineering curriculum at a different university or institution, that means even if it looks different, you're still learning all the same skill set that you need in order to be a successful engineer post-college. Sometimes people are like, if you open up our like class courses you can take, we don't have a Calc 1 that's folded into other classes. But you are still getting the same material and exposure to Calc 1 that you would at a different university. It's just we don't have classes that are like just one topic. It's all very integrated. However, that accreditation is saying that like it's still all there. You're still learning it. It's just packaged in a different way. So mechanical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, those kind of speak for themselves. So I'm going to kind of pause and talk a little bit about that last one, which is engineering with a concentration. So we have a couple of what I call pre-packaged concentrations. So what I mean by that is that the courses you need to take and the pathway of study, you know, how you end up graduating with that concentration is pretty much already laid out for you, similarly to like how electrical and computer engineering is already laid out. You're not coming up with, you know, the mandatory classes yourself. You're not structuring it yourself. It's kind of already done. So we have 5 concentrations. Only 4 are listed other than the self-designed, which I'll talk about in a second. And that's because we are introducing a new concentration, which everyone is super excited about, and it will be starting in the fall. So the ones that we have already had in the past are design, computing, robotics, and bioengineering. And then this year we are introducing a concentration in sustainability. That is because more and more students in the self-designed option have been doing something like sustainable design and environmental engineering. So because of the popularity increasing over the last couple of years of sustainability focused engineering pathways, it is now a formalized concentration in the sense that like there is a lot of structure to how to get that concentration in sustainability. I think the popularity of sustainability over the last couple of years really speaks to the fact that our students are very serious about our mission to use engineering for the good of the world, because they're really thinking of, you know, how to use engineering to address the climate crisis is something our students care very deeply about. If nothing up there kind of seems like what you want to be doing as a major, that is really where the self-designed option is going to come in. So our self-designed option is what it sounds like. So you have a lot of autonomy there and you essentially create your own major. Our students do a wide range of things within that. So we have students who have done human-centered design, human-centered software design, computational robotics, biomechanical, chemical engineering, aerospace engineering. Someone has done applied mathematics before, someone's done engineering education. So as you can see by that list, there's quite a bit of range in what students kind of do with the self-designed. It's just that with the self-designed, you kind of got to put in some of the legwork. So you are essentially creating that pathway of study. So you are making sure that you are creating a, curriculum for yourself that has breadth, depth, coherence, and rigor. So you can't, be taking a bunch of entry-level courses. You need to show that you are taking a progression of courses that increasingly gets, more difficult and more specific so that you truly are specializing in something. The process for that is, you find faculty advisors who are doing what you are interested in doing to make sure that you can actually successfully do it. And then it is reviewed by an outside committee of faculty who are not your advisors, kind of in order to get that objective standpoint of whether or not, it makes sense outside of the people who are a little bit more invested in you doing this. So, it's not that even though there's a lot of autonomy there, it's not like we just throw it to the wind. Like there's still a process to this and it's like heavily vetted. So you are still getting like the degree is valid. It's not just like total free for all, in case you were wondering. So this slide is kind of a more intense breakdown of how our curriculum is structured. So our curriculum, we imagine it in these streams is what it's called. Part of the reason we talk about it in streams is because we actually don't have departments at Olin. So you're not going to find a physics department and a math department and a history department. So the whole idea behind that is that our faculty exists kind of as a unit that works together, that we're not going to separate into, separate disciplines because that's not how they work. It's not how they teach. Most classes are co-taught or team taught, and they tend to be multidisciplinary. So in one of your courses, like modeling and simulation of the physical world, you could have a faculty member who's a computer scientist. This year, I think there was an environmental engineer on that as well, and then a computer engineer. So it's not like you have a class that is only taught by a team of the same faculty with the same background. So that multidisciplinary kind of integrated work that we want our students to be doing within their courses is really modeled actually at the faculty level. So it's like top and bottom, it's kind of coming from both ways. So our students actually see it modeled within the faculty because the faculty are essentially working on a team as well. Most of the courses you take are going to fall within this engineering stream. We are an engineering only college. We only have engineering majors. So you really want to be committed to engineering if you are coming to Olin. And the bulk of what you do, 60 to 70% of your classes are going to fall within that engineering stream. Then the rest of your time of your mandatory classes are split between the design stream and then what is called the arts, humanities, social sciences / entrepreneurship stream. That's a mouthful. There's that slash between, the humanities and entrepreneurship, because in that stream, you have to complete one humanities class during your first semester as a first year. And then there's a mandatory entrepreneurship class that you do the second semester of your first year. And then after that, you can pick whether or not you want to do the remaining classes focused on entrepreneurship or arts humanities. If you're someone who's totally not into the arts humanities, then you can kind of do some econ classes or some like startup classes. If you're someone who really loves learning language, you can keep doing that to fulfill, the little concentration you have to do in Oz. But like I mentioned, the bulk of what you do is engineering. So, don't be worried if you're someone who doesn't want to be doing like a lot of arts, humanities, social sciences classes. You can either really take advantage of that or you can do the bare minimum. So there's definitely flexibility within that. The design stream, I think, is a really cool part of our curriculum because that's a little bit, of where things really get integrated, right? So we're focused on the design stream. The idea behind it is that you are going to be taking, your technical knowledge and applying it in a way where you are learning how to go through the process, like an iterative design process to make things for other people, to work with specific user groups. So for example, in the design stream, you take a class called user-oriented collaborative design. You are actually like paired with a user group. They've done teachers, firefighters, nurses, librarians. It tends to be kind of like a service-oriented group. They actually meet with people who fall into like those professions in groups and talk to them and survey them and kind of like walk a day in their life and try to get a sense of like, what do they need or what could they use to make their job or their life easier? And that's what they end up designing. So it actually, the design stream gives our students kind of the direct opportunity to learn how to engineer for and with people. So I think it's like a really cool part of our curriculum, and you have to take a certain number of those classes. However, if you're someone who is, doing that concentration in design, you're going to have a little bit more of overlap between, that engineering core stream and the design. So it kind of depends on like what major you're doing too, if you end up taking more than the mandated number of design courses. So that top row that you see of boxes is actually the first year, first semester. So all of our first years, when they come in the fall, are taking the same courses together. There's a couple reasons behind that. One of them is that it's really community building, right? So we want our students to really get comfortable with each other. We want them to kind of start as a team, to feel that coherency as a group. So having them all take the same classes really helps in that. Also, part of it is that we know students are coming in with different, backgrounds. So some students have been doing FIRST for years. They went to like more technical schools. They're very comfortable in that realm. And then we have students that have not come from very technical backgrounds. So it's also meant to kind of even the playing field, whereas, everyone's getting exposed to multiple different disciplines and the classes kind of integrate and touch upon each thing. So on the left-hand side is Introduction to Sensors, Instrumentation, and Measurement. It's called ISIM. So that is essentially an introductory electrical engineering course. You're working with circuit boards from like day one. Modeling and Simulation of the Physical World is essentially like an introductory computing class. You're learning Java in that course. If you're already coming in knowing it, that just means you can do more advanced projects. And if you don't know it, you're going to be learning it in that class. There's quite a bit of calculus as well. Design Nature, like I said, it's one of those design courses. A lot of physics is in that. You're essentially doing projects where you create prototypes that mimic things in nature that hop. There's something called the Hopper Project. It's very popular. You like literally go outside and find something that hops and like create different iterations of it. And then the user group part of it is that for the second half of the semester, you make a play experience for fourth graders, which is super fun. They're also really harsh. From what I've heard, like the toughest graders are when the fourth graders come in and they actually play with what you created, and they will tell you if they hate it. So it can be sort of stressful. So to move forward in time, I just kind of covered, what your first semester is going to look like. I could talk forever about that. I get really excited about the curriculum, but I need to move on. All seniors, in order to get that ABET accreditation that we have, so you're going to hear this really from any engineering school you look at, there needs to be a senior Capsule project, which is just a year-long intensive group project that has some sort of real-world application. What I think makes, our capstone choices kind of unique, or a more unique experience for our students, is that kind of like I, talked about and alluded to before, your entire time at Olin, you are going to be working on teams, doing projects that have real world application. So a lot of kind of the soft skills that go into a capstone experience, where you are working on teams to do something that like has to do with real life and not just school, you've been doing the entire time, the entire 4 years. Whereas sometimes, one of the first times the students are really doing a project of that caliber is when they get into like junior, senior year. So it's a little bit more challenging. Our students are able to do things that are quite intensive and high level because they've already been doing this kind of thing, so they can take on more serious projects. So our most popular capstone is called SCOPE, which stands for Senior Capstone Program in Engineering. It's not our most original title. It really tells you nothing about what it is. But these are our current SCOPE sponsors, which should tell you a little bit more about what it is. It is our industry-sponsored capstone experience. So essentially, our seniors in teams of like 5 to 6 are paired with a corporate sponsor. We have a specific office, like a SCOPE office of staff members who actually survey the juniors, rising seniors to see what they want to be doing. So if you are someone who is a mechanical engineer and you're interested in going to like automotive, then you're probably going to work on a team with Ford. So your interests are taken into account, like what you want to do post college as a graduate of college influences who you're going to be paired with, because we want this to be a worthwhile experience. We want this to be something that you can take on with you. So this SCOPE project is really, it is the bulk of our seniors year. That's the main thing that they're doing. The outcomes are really great, and it's a great work experience for them. They do projects, that matter to these companies. For example, one of the teams that worked with Amazon Robotics in the last couple of years came up with a pick and place robotic system that was actually implemented in Amazon warehouses. So you were not doing busy work, I guess is my point. You were doing something that, the company wants you to succeed and they want to use. So it really allows our students to have an impact to these companies and have like a very real experience. We do have another capstone experience if you're not really interested in doing industry work. It's called Affordable Design and Entrepreneurship. So instead of working with a company, you're working, with and for a community in order to create something that helps alleviate poverty within that community. So our students, it really varies where those communities are. Some of them, the teams work as far away as Ghana and as close as East Boston. So there's a lot of range there, like the East Boston project. East Boston, you may or may not know, it's right near Logan, the airport. So air quality is a big problem there. So the ADE team that over the last couple of years has been working with East Boston is coming up with kind of a cheap version so that it can actually be implemented, cheap but effective and efficient air quality monitoring system. And then also taking that information, just because the raw information and the raw data is not something that really can be utilized easily by the community, turning that kind of into like an app and making it so that people can actually use that data and understand it and really be able to tell their air quality, which will help them further advocate for themselves. So that's kind of like the tone of ADE. What's also unique about ADE is that it's not just with Olin students. Kind of the hint of that is the and entrepreneurship part of it. So you can actually also be working on teams with Babson and Wellesley students. So if you're looking, for maybe not just working with Olin students, or if you're someone who is less committed to industry, or you want to get a very different experience, maybe you've done a lot of industry related internships and you kind of want to do something different, then you can do ADE. So we give it to you to make that decision. Kind of speaking, I just spoke a little bit about internships. Our students get really great internships. Most of our students, well, all of our students in past years have done them. Most do 2 or 3. Like I mentioned, a lot of students will do research 1 year and then the following years do internships with a variety of places. The logos that you see on this screen are where the highest % of Oliners have done internships. So like critical mass of our students have been at Google, Microsoft, Bose, Formlabs, so on and so forth. Also on this slide, you can see that even 65% of our first years have done technical internships. So what's significant about that is it's actually not super common for people after their first year to land a competitive technical internship, just because in a more traditional engineering curriculum at a more traditional institution, you are going to kind of spend that first year doing almost like prereqs. You're going to be taking like Calc 1, Physics 1, things like that, depending on like if you test it out, maybe higher levels, but you're not doing a lot of applied work. Our students in that first year are doing a lot of applied work and kind of building that portfolio of, being able to demonstrate that they have those skill sets that make them a competitive applicant. So they tend to get really great internships throughout their time because they're kind of ready earlier. A significant amount of our students, when it comes to postgraduate, enroll in a master's or PhD student program. Most of that, 70%, is STEM, but 30% is non-STEM. We have a lot of people who are in the non-STEM category of going on and doing graduate school are people who work in industry and actually go back and get MBAs to make them a little bit, they want that business side of it. They have the technical side of it. They might have been someone who did a lot of the entrepreneurship focus while they were in undergrad, but they kind of want to formalize that background. That's a lot of where the non-STEM part comes in. And then the STEM part is, what you would expect. Once again, the logos that you see around the sides are where the highest percent of Oliners have done a master's or PhD program. So it's MIT, Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon. So our students go to very competitive grad programs, obviously. So Olin does a good job of preparing students for that. Our students are very adaptable. They can take on a lot. They do great research after the fact. If you are not interested in going to grad school and getting a master's or PhD, that's when you're going to start looking for jobs during that senior year. Our students do very, very well in finding jobs. So we have what is called the postgraduate planning office. It's the same thing as career services anywhere else. And, part of the benefit of going to a really small school is that students know the people in postgraduate planning, and postgraduate planning actively seeks out students. This is not something you need to even just go to them. They will find you. They will find you and sit down with you and do your resume and be like, we're creating a plan here. So there's a really active relationship there, which I think really helps our students, which is why most of them get insecure jobs in the first half of their senior year and are just kind of enjoying their senior year. I think what is kind of noteworthy about, if you look on this slide, is that typically over 100 companies recruit on campus and we only have 80 to 85 people graduating. I think that says a lot about how excited companies are to work with Oliners, is that they come and they want students, and it tends to be once they have one Oliner and they see how kind of ready to work, our students are really, really ready to be in a workplace setting, just because they're used to very open-ended and team-based work, which is kind of how the real world is. Our students are very ready to do that. So companies are excited about Oliners. I am very, very quickly going to go through the application process, so I have time for questions. We have a two-part application process. Part one looks pretty normal. It's the Common App or Coalition app, your transcripts, SAT or ACT, it was suspended this year. And then recommendations from counselor and 2 classroom teachers. One of them has to be a math or science teacher. The other can be a teacher of your choice. There's no leg up from doing one over the other. It is typically our deadline. This year was actually, we pushed it a little bit later, is January 6th, 2021. We haven't actually settled on when it is going to be last year. It's almost always, it's between the 1st and the 6th, tends to be January 1, January 2. This year was a little weird. Our second phase is called Candidates Week, Candidates Weekend. So as you can see, it was virtual this year. Fingers crossed, not virtual next year. So I'm going to talk about the non-virtual version. So we have 3 different Candidates Weekend. You come to one. Out of the 1,000 applications we get in the beginning, 250 become candidates. There's an interview portion of the weekend, but the rest of it is really just a fun time for you to get to know our community, just because we are really niche and we want you to have that chance to get to know what Olin's all about and see whether or not it's the place for you. And then we release decisions. The last candidates weekend is usually March 6th, March 7th, and we release at the end of March. A little bit about financial aid. That big number at the bottom, 76,000-ish, is the total cost of everything, in the sense of like, it is a reflection of what it costs Olin to have one student on campus. It's not what anyone actually pays, just because each student that gets into Olin is awarded the Olin Tuition Scholarship, which is valued at half the annual tuition for 8 semesters of study. You don't have to fill out anything extra. There's no other box, no application. You get into Olin, you go to Olin, you get that. Currently valued at over $100,000, which is great. We also meet 100% of demonstrated need. Fill out the FAFSA. Great, so that kind of covers everything. I think I have like exactly 5 minutes to answer questions. I'm going to stop sharing and answer some of these questions. All right. So what do you think is the coolest thing about Olin? That's such a hard question, because like, it's so cool. Part of it, I think the coolest part for me, and especially as a staff, that was just like such an interesting part of like joining Olin's community, is like how communitarian it is and how excited the students are about like being friends with each other. I think like a really cool example is that when they found out this time last year that everyone was going to be kicked off campus because of COVID-19, the seniors were obviously very upset because they weren't going to get a graduation. So within 3 days, the entire community, with the students kind of being the backbone of it, we threw a faux commencement for the seniors, and it was pulled together literally within 3 days. The non-seniors like made origami graduation caps for them. They made gowns. A stage was set up. It was like all completed within a couple of days. And I think that's such a good reflection of what our community is. Like, people just pull together for each other in like a really fun, supportive way, which is really cool. Is Olin test optional for next year, juniors in high school? We have not formally announced that decision. That will probably be something in the next couple months, definitely before you're doing applications, that we will have a definitive answer. As of right now, we haven't actually decided. Of the approximately 85 students joining each year, how many are studying computer engineering? So I don't know exact numbers off the top of my head. I know that the majority of our students are mechanical engineers. I want to say like computer, because it's electrical and computer, I want to say it's like in the 25 to 30%, but that might be old statistics. Because I think some of the other things in the last couple of years have become more popular, like especially some of the specific concentrations, like computing's become really popular instead of like electrical and computer, just because the computer engineering is a little bit more like hardware focused. When do students declare their intended major? Oh, great question, because our students, you can't declare, like you can't come in with a major. We make students we want you to get a taste of everything before you decide. You cannot decide and declare until second semester of sophomore year. And it's super fun because there's actually it's called Declaration Day, and they make it like a whole, like kind of like a party, and like it's a whole thing for the sophomores. It's cool. When would these presentations be available for viewing later if needed? I actually don't know that. That's something I think James would know. I'm not sure. Does Olin offer AI programming or data science classes? How classes conducted, letter grade, or pass fail? So your first semester of your first year is all pass fail for everyone, just because, or it's pass no record. It's not even pass fail. Because we want students to be focused on like finding themselves and having acclimating. But we do offer programming and data science classes. It's become increasingly popular over the last couple of years. We have a couple of faculty members who actually do like AI focused research. So that's definitely an opportunity. Do I have like another minute? Yeah. Okay. Can one recommendation be from a mentor that I worked with for over 6 years, but not from school? that couldn't count as one of the necessary two, but we do allow you to send at least one additional recommendation. So that could come from a mentor. We have a rocketry club. We do. It was founded a couple years ago, and the president of the rocketry club is the most amazing person. I love him dearly. So I totally suggest being part of the rocketry club because it's super fun. Do you award college credit for AP classes? No, we do not. There's a couple exceptions to the rule. Sometimes AP biology we will count, but for the most part, AP classes don't count for college credit just because our curriculum's kind of so niche and we want you to be taking those very integrated classes that there isn't, like, because we don't have like Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, taking that previous AP class doesn't like transfer over exactly, if that makes sense. Yeah.
That was impressive. Got through the questions.
I talk really fast. I'm so sorry for.
No, I think that was great. And students, thank you so much for your participation and asking some really great questions. And being able to get those answered is really important for these types of sessions. So I'm going to jump back on and kind of close us. I just want to thank everyone again for joining, and thank you to Victoria for just her wisdom and her remarks on Olin. As you exit this webinar, you're going to have access to just a very brief survey, if you wouldn't mind filling that out. In regards to the question about how to access these sessions, you can go to strivescan.com/CACHET, CACHET, to access all of the recordings that are happening today, and those will be made available within about a week or so. And then that is also where you can sign up for additional sessions. So there are some other sessions happening the next hour, as well as I believe there's some other dates that this virtual fair is happening. So this is a really great way for you to get more information about the schools that you're interested in. So thank you again, everybody, for joining. We're going to go ahead and end the webinar now, but we hope that you have a great and safe evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.